guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be reacting to...
After 7 years in Europe, American news shocked me.
Turned on the news and watched as the far-left media once again used tragedy to sow anger and division.
I'm not going back to Haiti.
Child rapist.
President Trump's big, beautiful bill has passed.
Terrible, terrible, terrible.
You are fake news.
No earthly clue.
Watching the news in America is like watching reality television. You don't see journalists, you see personalities.
How to train a radical.
The left isn't good at violence, they just love violence.
Don't be a dick.
Wait, didn't she shoot a dog?
You don't get facts, you get opinions.
Those would-be terrorists. This was not a domestic terrorist.
You don't find truth, you find drama.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
Trump and Epstein were friends.
There was a client list.
Donald Trump's
But to
name
be
is in
fair,
it.
a lot of the selections they're showing, this is like people's like think pieces, like this is like
pieces.
yeah, so it's like their segment is to kind of give their thoughts of the news as opposed to just reporting the news.
I think the difference is, at least I can't speak for all Europe, at least for Lithuania, we didn't have news channels. We had at 7 o'clock news come in for 20 minutes, and that's that. That's the news for the day. Or in the morning they have like a morning show for news also, but like for the evening news, 7 to 7:15, about then from 7:15 to 7:20 the weather. That's it. So in that 20 moments, it's all journalists just representing facts. Here in the States, we do have those, like local news, though that's exactly what they do. So local news would be like the European alternative of the news. That would be one to one, like the same exact news. The difference is here, they have news channels, and on those channels, like news all day long, and of course there isn't that many news to present as facts, so they have to fill in with, they have to show something. So they fill in with the opinion pieces, and then they, at that point, it's, I guess the people are still journalists, though. I think it's unfair to call them non-journalists, even though they provide opinion pieces. I do believe they have degree in journalism, like what you call, like what's some popular people? I don't know. I don't watch it. I don't know the new. But the
people that they
yeah, the
show.
people that they showed, like yeah, I believe they do have journalism degrees. It's just their job at that point is not to present the news, is to present an opinion. And that's what you get. You get this type of news.
To be news outlets, you have two completely different narratives.
In Europe, the news felt boring, calm, responsible. But since coming back to the US, I turn on the news and feel angry, frustrated, stressed. It's one of the biggest reverse culture shocks I've had since coming back to America. So I asked myself, what the heck is going on with American media?
Even though that the media, the traditional media in Europe is like very straightforward to the news, that's not the only source of where people are taking in information. And people in Europe, they do have these colorful opinions where they go and they talk about these things of politics.
Yeah, we do have debate shows. Like there would be like on Monday night debate show, and the politicians or whoever come in and debate for like an hour. Yeah, but that's
especially with the internet, everyone has like their opinion. Now you see everyone's opinion now, so I don't think it's unique.
Yeah, I'm mostly speaking for Lithuania, though. I don't know how other countries, how they have their news, but that's how it was in Lithuania.
Yeah. In this video, we'll explore how American media went from informing to performing. I'll break down how money and psychology fuel a never-ending loop of division. I'll share my experience working with executives at one of America's biggest media companies. We'll compare how Europe does media very differently. Then we'll talk about why this matters, how American media has affected trust, happiness, and even democracy. And if history is any clue, it might just be fueling America's decline as a world power. And finally, what can we do about it? But first,
Honestly,
let me tell you about...
I feel like YouTubers have been, I don't know what's the narrative, but they've been pushing hard for Americans' decline. And then,
You think so?
yeah, but then last week we did a video, oh, why is America's economy performing better than expected? Because everybody's been preying on the downfall, but well, it's just not happening. Like, I feel like we keep seeing this, oh, America's decline. Well, guess what? They ain't declining. They're still on top.
About American, everyone is going through the same thing.
Yeah, the whole world is struggling at the same time that America is. So whoever was on top is going to stay on top because the other countries are not outperforming.
Because I feel like people fail to realize how interconnected we are to one another.
media by telling you about my dating life. So I went on this triple date about 10 years ago, and this girl from Norway tells us the biggest shock that she faced in America was how divided America was. No one trusted the government, no one trusted the media. Because in Norway, most people actually trust the government and the media too. In fact, in Europe, EU citizens trust traditional media the most in the world. But in the US, trust in the government has fallen drastically since the 60s. And the media, today, it's become one of the least trusted institutions in America. But it wasn't always like this. News media used to be one of the most trusted institutions in America. In the 60s
I
and
guess it's different for me coming from Eastern Europe. There was never trust in the government.
I thought there's like corruption
Yeah,
everywhere.
there was never trust in the government in Lithuania ever. Like, it's the same as America. People never trusted the
Yeah.
government. Now, media, I do not remember there being distrust in the media. Again, because media is not really polarized, just represented. Like, there isn't even like a thing media. Like, that's not like a thing. It's just news. So they just represent the facts. There never is like even a doubt that it's not factual. So I would say like the trust in the news in that little segment of the news was like a 99%.
I think you don't experience the lack of trust until there's like a scandal that hits.
Probably, yeah.
And then
yeah.
that's when you see how does that company
Yeah.
handle it.
And because we are from ex-Soviet, so the government was always the enemy. So that mentality just stayed, even though we became no longer Soviet independent. The mentality just stayed that the government is still the enemy, that everybody's corrupt and all that.
70s, there were mainly three big TV networks.
But
ABC,
I say
NBC
that to say I can see like how in countries, and we do see like in Finland, for example, the trust in the government is very high. Everybody, people are happy, they trust the government because they never had that communism, I guess.
and CBS. And the news was a lot more neutral. The Fairness Doctrine made sure broadcasters presented multiple views on issues of public importance. But in 1987, the Fairness Doctrine was repealed.
The First Amendment does not guarantee a fair press, only a free press.
This led to the rise of opinion-driven partisan media in the 90s. First came Rush Limbaugh, then Fox News in 1996, then MSNBC.
Right, so a name, for example, Rush Limbaugh. I do believe Rush Limbaugh does have a journalism degree.
And many other pundits and
Or
opinion
at least journalism adjacent, politician maybe, something, I don't know.
shows
I'm not
too.
too sure.
And
Yeah,
CNN,
I'm not sure,
they
I
were
would
the
hope
first
so,
to do
though.
24/7 news, which changed the media game. Suddenly,
make a
the
difference
news
for you?
became
No, I don't watch news these channels. I
No,
don't
but
care.
like for example, like for someone to report the news, do you expect them to have a background in journalism?
Not anymore. Nowadays, no. Because you can report news on social media. You don't have to have a degree. At this point, I don't see why there's a difference in social media on TV.
Because it seems like now what matters is like if you have a personality.
Yeah. I think back in the day, that mattered. I think it doesn't matter anymore.
more competitive. There was more pressure.
Like, we here, we're not presenting the news, but we're giving opinion pieces. So we are kind of, by that logic, we should have journalism degree based on, if there was expectation, but there isn't. We're just giving opinion piece. So
to be the first. And today, the news is so political that when tragedy strikes, headlines blame instead of report. It's hard to know what's real or fake anymore. For example, just look at how differently these news outlets reported on the US airstrikes in Iran.
Mom, what's
But the
that?
thing is that
Nothing. Just get in the car. Let's go. Come on.
According to CNN,
for news, people shouldn't feel the need that they have to have some sort of education to process and give their thoughts of the news.
Yeah.
So I like that people are capable to like give their thoughts, and I appreciate these think pieces because then you have multitude of thoughts and we get to see, okay, which one is good, which one is bad.
that's the freedom, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has the right to an opinion. That's the
Because
freedom.
before you would just get only one and that one is the report, but it's not really challenging you to think, it's just making you consume and accept.
Yeah, no, I agree. I believe in free. Everybody should have a right to an opinion.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
the US airstrikes failed, but Fox News says there's irrefutable evidence of success. And Trump?
Fake news, CNN, the nuclear sites in Iran are completely destroyed.
It's about opinions, which side you're on, which creates bias. Yet there's very little regulatory pushback in the US. So Americans only trust media that's on their side. And it's all part of a bigger shift
is a
in
little echo
America in
chamber.
the past 50 years. It might start with politics, but it goes deeper than that. We've
And
become divided.
that's exactly why I like to see the conservative perspective. Like, I go on the Republicans Reddit a couple times a week just to kind of see the most annoying part, I would say, going on that Reddit, the issues they talk about is so random issues. Like, because most of the media I get is left wing, so like I want to go and see what the Republicans think about the issues that left media story. It's not even there. They're talking about like something I can't tell you an example. And I
What's
was,
important for them
but
at this
it's
time.
like such a random stuff. Like, why does anybody care about this? It's like complete. Their issues is like complete. I guess you're right. What's important to them is completely different than what's important to
Yeah,
us. So
yeah.
like, I can't even see what their perspective of the issues that are actually important.
Which is important to know because if you're running and you want to get votes, you need votes on the other side.
Target, you know
So
what to
you
target,
have to
yeah.
know what their interests are and how do you fit into that and how you can
Yeah.
pull from that.
On history, immigration, gender, social values, tribalism.
Once we connect to a tribe, we cling to it and we want to defend it no matter what.
This tribal thinking that everyone seems to be engaged in on the right and on the left.
You kind of ignore facts. You want to stick to your team and be loyal to it. We can't have a conversation.
I've seen friends unfriend each other just because they believe something different. I've seen families, relationships fall apart too. And mass media is the fuel
I think
that
that's
drives
so
polarization.
because if it's your friend, supposedly they can understand, like they get firsthand from a person that's different from them, their experiences. They hear like probably what you go through, and they still make the choice to not care and say that doesn't mean anything to me. I don't care what really happens to you. And I think we saw that when it came to, like, for example, immigration. Like when you hear, like, you probably go to local stores, you interact with people who are from another country, and you hear and see how hard they work, and then they probably share they know someone, or they're probably in a situation where they feel uncomfortable to even go out because they have a fear of being stopped by ICE. And you hear all these things, and this is someone that you have firsthand experience who actually lives it, and you choose to still support a person who's okay to just have ICE raids at soccer events. To me, that's just like, is that your friend? Is that your family? Then what is this person to you, really?
A lot of fake people.
And tribalism in America. So how did America become this divided? Well, it's not only political. It's also
I can only
business.
understand
In the
that
US,
if you have never been exposed to someone different from you and you just live in that bubble, because of course you're going to echo that bubble. But if you have been exposed to others, people different from you, and you still choose to, be on the side where injustices happen,
Media is run by corporations and billionaires, and they're publicly traded companies, which means it's all about revenue and profits. I used to work in finance at Universal Pictures, which is owned by Comcast. I worked directly with Hollywood and media executives, and we ran numbers all the time: movies, television, advertising. And we would report numbers up to the CEO of Comcast. And let me tell you, in business, it's always about how can we get more people to buy, to watch. And in a public company, you always want more. So this pressure trickles down into the organization to different teams. And networks like CNN and Fox News, they make most of their money off of affiliate fees, which is money charged to providers such as cable channels, and advertising. For example, while I'm trying to read the news, I'm subconsciously being so new tired.
Is that people in all aspects of the work, life, experience, occupations, you're not getting paid for what you actually do. Is what you can be sponsored to push, like for doctors, lawyers, every job. They're not actually working just that job. That's not the money maker for them. It's the sponsors, the advertising dollars that really makes the money for the people. Even for the streamers, they can do these cute little missions, but if they get sponsorship money, the ads is what really pays.
Or a couple's massage. But hey, it's a business. And if you want to grow, you need more views to drive up higher TV ratings. And how do you get more views?
Well, a disturbing development on the border crisis. Wait until you hear this.
With this meme on your phone, or this meme.
They target their already polarized audience by creating more polarizing content. And people seek out information that confirms what they already believe. This is called confirmation bias. A Fox News viewer is more likely to watch material that is critical of illegal immigration. A CNN viewer may prefer stories that highlight racial injustice. Humans are naturally hardwired to belong to a tribe, and the media, they know this very well. So this becomes a feedback loop. The audience has biases. The media creates content that targets that bias. Viewers feel validated, so they keep watching. Media executives are happy, but they need to keep growing, so they push more us versus them content. The audience becomes more divided, and the cycle continues. But in Europe, it's different. The pace and tone of media is slower, more explanatory, and it's less biased. And that's because a lot of European media is public media, paid for by the taxpayers. In the Netherlands, each person
When I'm
pays around
curious, okay, I understand that in Europe, news is neutral, but is sports considered news?
In Lithuania, yes, it's part of news. Yeah.
So when they report on sports news, is it very straightforward or is it
Yeah.
colorful?
Straightforward.
Oh, okay.
Very boring.
Because
News commentary is more interesting here.
I would not expect that, given seeing the sporting events, to how passionate people are. Because sports can also
Very
tie
neutral.
to politics too, as well, depending on who's playing. So I see like the passion and everything there at the sporting events. So so interesting that the reporting, the news of those things would be neutral.
You would never get a report, like a sports commentary cheering for someone. Like, no, it's always like very neutral, very vanilla, black and white. Yeah, here it's like they actually pick a side and they choose for a team, and you can feel the biases when you watch sports here in Europe.
Is it annoying?
Annoying when you're watching the commentators that don't support your team, but if the commentators are supporting your team,
I
like,
feel like
yeah,
when they don't support your team, you say, what they gonna say? What they gonna say? You interested to see what they're gonna say?
$60 a year in taxes to fund public media. In Germany, it's around $140. Norway, $110. The UK, $81. And the US, around $3 per person. While in the US today, the main source of news is now social media. But in Europe, the main source of news is public media. And most people in Western Europe do trust public media because public media is better protected by law from political and business influences. For example, in the EU, the European Media Freedom Act protects journalists from political pressure and requires transparency about media ownership. The Digital Services Act forces big tech like Meta and YouTube to identify and remove hate speech and misinformation on their platforms. And across Europe, countries have their own media laws too. In the UK, the BBC must be impartial. It's in their royal charter. In the Netherlands, public broadcasters are legally protected from political and business influence. In the US, the First Amendment protects freedom of speech, but there's no law against media misinformation.
They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats.
Breaking news. A very important part of these videos comes from you, the audience, so if you either please press first. And there is terms of they spread free and press freedom, be free from any external influence besides the public interest. Europe leads the world in press freedom, but the US, it doesn't rank very well. And there is public media in the US too, NPR, PBS, and they do score quite high in terms of reliability too. But the Trump administration is seeking to eliminate funding from them. Trump believes they spread far-left propaganda. Again, American media is driven by politics and profits. But in Europe, yes, of course, there's always some bias. But it's not at the same level as American media, because public information in Europe is the main driver. Another difference is that in the US, there are a lot more pundits, public commentators, and influencers. You find them on both sides, and they've become a key source of information for many people. Talk shows, radio, television, podcasts, YouTube channels. And now with the rise of social media, there are even more influencers in this space too. But the problem is, online influencers are also the biggest source of misinformation. And when you combine mass media, pundits, and social media, this further fuels the polarization of America. In Europe, there are pundits too, but there are rules. For example, Gary Lineker, the BBC sports presenter, was suspended in 2023 for comments he made about UK's immigrant policy. And in 2025, he's leaving the BBC after sharing a post on Zionism on Instagram. In Europe, there is freedom of expression, but if you work for a public broadcaster like the BBC, ARD, NOS, there are strict rules around impartiality.
Absolutely driven by a passion for impartiality.
Another difference between European and American media is
America first.
We are America, second to none.
America is and has always focused on America first. Around only 10% of US news is international. That's probably one of the reasons why Americans get stereotyped for being dumb, self-centered, and not knowledgeable.
I mean, yeah, that is true, but at the same time, look at the size of the country. I mean, of course, it's so much going on in that country that in that time frame, the actual news, that's what you can cover. And honestly, that's what people care about. People don't really travel abroad. Like in Europe, what happens in Albania affects Greece, affects Kosovo, might affect Serbia. Here, what happens in Guadalupe?
In Idaho, it's gonna affect all the potatoes.
No, like what happens in Guadalupe? Oh, it's who cares? Like we don't care what happens in. We might care a little bit what happens in Canada or Mexico because those are like two neighbors. But like like in Nicaragua, what happens in Nicaragua? What happens in I don't know, Cayman Islands? Who cares? Like not really gonna affect nobody in the country. That's why we don't depend on other countries as much as European countries depend on other countries. Like in Europe, each European country depends on other European countries for a lot because the countries are small, the terrains are different, they only grow so many few products. Here a lot is independent on the countries. That's why those news, nobody's concerned with them and don't show them.
Knowledgeable about the world.
Africa? That's a continent.
Africa?
Nope.
Russia?
Nope, that's China.
Is this one Europe?
No. This one? No.
Because some people out there in our nation don't have that.
And to be honest, from my experience living in Europe, I find Europeans a lot more knowledgeable, not just about the world, but they seem more knowledgeable about what's happening in America than Americans are. You can blame Americans for not knowing.
Yes, they are, because as I just said, they are much more concerned. Like what happens in America affects them more than Americans. Like honestly, I feel like Trump right now has affected Europeans more than it has affected us. I mean, yes, with the ICE thing, it is affecting, some people living here. But aside from that, like if you're like a true American, born here, you, I guess white, because the ICE thing seems to be like racially biased too. If you like white American born here, I don't really feel like Trump's policies have done much to affect you so far. Prices have risen maybe a little bit, yeah, but aside from that, whereas Europeans, I feel like they've been affected quite a bit,
But just know that it's also a problem of the system too. So what? Why does this matter? Well, fortunately, unfortunately, what happens in America tends to impact Europe and the rest of the world too. Trust in media and in the government are at all-time lows, and that's a problem because democracies depend on trust. And it matters a lot if we want to save democracy. When people trust institutions and society, people are more likely to vote, to volunteer, to help each other out. And when we lose trust in others, we are less happy as well. According to Gallup, trust in people and institutions is one of the key predictors of happiness. In Europe, people tend to trust people more, and Europeans are some of the happiest people in the world. In the US, trust is down, volunteering is down, civic participation is down, happiness is down. American media has not only played a role in eroding trust and happiness, it's worn down our mental health too. Humans have negativity bias. We're wired to pay more attention to negative information as a survival mechanism. And studies show the news has become
It is, and that is true too. Like I sometimes catch myself into these like negative news. I gotta like exit out of it because I don't really like that stuff. But it's addictive. But I don't really like it. I don't care for it. But you start reading it and you get into like this hole. So
like Reddit threads.
Yeah, like I start reading about all this negative stuff. I'm like, why do you have to stop going? Why do cause all this without knowing it, you just life is happier. But then you start reading everything's so gloomy.
Become a lot more negative. More anger, disgust, fear, and sadness. This activates our fight or flight response. More stress, more anxiety. And we doomscroll, believing that the constant feed keeps us safe. We get more dopamine. We continue swiping. The algorithms know this, and we get more bad news. And the cycle continues. And lastly, this polarization may signal the decline of the American world order. Let me explain. After World War I, a divided media landscape in Germany spread propaganda and helped pave the way for the Nazis' rise to power. In Yugoslavia, media polarization played a key role in fueling the Civil War. And in 1800s America, the sudden rise of news communication, political influencers, and propaganda deepened the divide between the North and the South, which helped accelerate the Civil War. I'm not saying the US today is the same as these examples, but what history does show is that when media polarizes, it divides and it pushes societies apart. Ray Dalio, billionaire investor and author, argues that world powers follow a similar big cycle. They rise through education, innovation, military strength, and trade, and they fall.
That's what I'm seeing with the immigration. Like I was saying the other day, that it's gonna get to a point where the countries are gonna have to address what to do with these people. They're gonna not do this half like solution where okay, this country takes some, that country takes some. At some point, someone's gonna be fed up and it's gonna say, no, I'm not accepting. That's gonna lead to a chain of other countries saying, I'm not accepting either. So then what do we do as an alternative?
through internal division, high debt, inequality, and external pressure. And Ray believes that the US is now in the stages of decline. Now, I don't want to sound alarmist, but if we do look at history, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. So now what? Big media thrives on division, but America doesn't have to. Here's what I believe we can do as individuals. Understand that most major American media outlets are businesses first. Their main goal isn't to inform. Their main goal is to make money, to hook our emotions. We can also stay more informed and in control by
Okay, and this is a commercial break, right? I think so, yeah. Sponsored by Ground News.
Hey guys, of course, let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Join the Discord, and as always, share as much kindness as possible.